honored to invite Team Lampe. I know Team Lampe since almost 2 years, right? Or yeah, Team Lampe,
One
and
and a half.
yeah, 1.5, and we are working on together various. He's my coach actually for my startup. Let's call it like that. Tim has a huge background. He's coming from Silicon Valley background. He worked in many startups, his own startup, and he's back in Germany where he's trying to change the whole thing in German startup area. And I see that he's really been busy, and it's really great that Tim you accepted to give the our young entrepreneurs here some kind of a your experience. So stage is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for introducing, and a warm welcome to everyone. Glad to see so many people, still taking on challenges and being creative and trying to shape the future. And I think this is a really good sign. Even within the last couple of weeks, maybe that's also not normal. So I'm glad to be here and glad to talk people who share the same passion probably than I do. Manoj asked me to briefly introduce you guys into design thinking, but I would love to rather keep it pragmatic to this weekend because there's so much to tell. And I mean, yeah, Manoj said it. I've been with startups for a couple of years, been a founder myself, now helping experienced founders like Manoj, helping new founders, new startups, young talents with educating them. So I try to create a little bit mesh up of different experiences from myself, and I would love to rather keep it pragmatic and try to trigger your attention, try to provide some learnings, and then if you are interested in learning more, I'll join the Slack channel in a few minutes. Also, I drop you my email, so feel free to also reach out if this triggers your curiosity, because I think this is what is most important about design thinking. But let's just jump right into it. So when we talk design thinking, basically, there is a process behind it, but the process is rather simple. So it has several milestones. You have to define a challenge. Then, you should be really empathetic, look into the market, do your research, unpack that, come up with a problem statement, and then start with solution ideas. And this is really simple, but what's the tricky part behind design thinking is actually applying it, getting experienced in this. So I would rather keep the procedure behind design thinking rather short, because what I experience is that most teams, basically every team, is intelligent enough to understand the different steps. So for every one of you who is interested, just do a screenshot, and the whole process is kind of self-explanatory, how we live it also with us at Campus Founders. But one thing I would like to emphasize once again is you should really start with focusing on a problem or on a need first before you jump to the solution space. And I would love to talk briefly about why this is so important and why you should not just simply start with a solution, because 90% of teams, and especially German engineering teams, are exactly that way. They come up with perfectly designed solutions, but no market. And it's really hard to push those solutions back and help them to really find a market so that these products can work and scale. And so if you start on a green field, if you start new, you should always consider to think about a need and a problem statement you will work on. And I think you guys have done that, because I learned you're already working on this right now. But once again, I would love to emphasize this, because every question, no matter where you're at your life cycle stage of an idea, in the end, from my experience, it always comes down to the same two questions. And those questions are why you and why now? Doesn't matter whether you pitch your idea or you pitch your idea to a VC and you start to a VC in a later stage. In the end, it all comes down to why you and why now. And the answer, oh, well, nobody has thought about it before, is not enough. So that's the reason why the research is so important, and why being empathetic to a market is so important, and to know your users, because only the market and the market validation will give you the proof and the answer in the end to come up with a good and valid statement that is convincing people. So keep that in your mind, because it's totally normal if you start thinking about solution ideas that you think within your own boundaries. And most startups emerge from ideas where founders try to solve a problem they experience themselves. So usually it's like, oh, my mom has this kind of problem, I would love to solve it. And, oh, I know my dad is having this kind of problem and I would love to solve it. And most of the time, if kind of everyone in the world has this problem, then I can promise you there has been at least one person thinking about making a startup out of this. So before you start designing solution ideas, try to experience why there is no feasible solution out there yet, and go beyond what we call, we always encourage our teams to go beyond the obvious, because just saying, okay, there has no startup been in the market yet, or well, they just failed because they screwed up, is too simple. So it's really about to dig deep into the details and figure out why exactly is there no solution feasible. So I know, especially in hackathons, it's about designing solutions in the end and running prototypes. And I know this is that's the part with the biggest fun in the end. And you should have fun. And with a relevant problem statement, I can promise you it's even more fun, because it provides you clear guidance where to go. And a lot of these discussions like, should we build feature A? Should we build feature B? They will be cut down and narrowed down to one simple thing. And I think Manoj can give you and can share his experience in the end, because I mean, still we are working for 1.5 years now, and still we are pivoting, working on ideas, figuring out the real problem with retail partners. And so this research also never ends. And still we are discussing, okay, is it really food quality we're watching over? Is it food fraud we're watching over? Like, what is it? How is it feasible for the user? And so these are things that will still be on your way, even when you start designing a solution, and you will go back and forth. So to make it pragmatic, really ask yourself as a team during this next few hours, why are you building exactly this solution? And why is there no solution yet out there in the market? And be self-critical with yourself, because usually, your stomach will tell you. And in this early stage, it's totally fine to trust your feelings, because it's so broad. Your challenge is so broad. There is no 100% database decision possible if you want to move fast. Yes, you can collect data over the next 3 years to come to a point where you can make an informed decision about the market. For now, in the next hours, that's not possible. So trust your feelings, trust your instincts, because regularly they're really good. What's important is that you do not judge ideas too early. So especially within the next few minutes, allow yourself to be bold, to really go into several directions, because every one of us, and I experienced that in German schools myself, you are born and raised to be efficient. And efficiency means be fast, judge early, and trust the first idea that comes into your mind. And if you think this is not good, then don't tell it, because other people will make fun of you, will be not appreciating you, or will even, think you're not as competent as you might be. And this is how we are born and raised. But this is also what really limits our creativity when it comes to designing solutions, finding problems, because we are trained to limit ourselves to what is already out there. And so if you follow just your first thought, it will happen a lot that you will limit yourself to the ideas that are already out there. So this weekend is about fun and learning. And so I would encourage you to really play around, experiment with different solutions, talk to other people, also hear the peer group, get first feedback, first insights, because this will help you to come up with the solution in the end that matters. And so experiment and play around. That's really the statement. Don't kill your creativity. And I heard we have also a lot of a lot of young people joining in for a hackathon, so even 17. And it's super great that you guys are around because you're experts in this field. People who have been working for 10 years, you know, they got a little rusted. They are a little, you know, working is not like being the perfect setting for being creative. Usually working means your boss is telling you what to do and you have just to do it. So especially to those of you who are still in school or are still experimenting and learning a lot, you are really our creativity experts here. So know your role in the team and be really the creative leader. Be confident and stand your ground. Even might be people around you who might have more experience in one field. So I would encourage you really to practice creativity over the next weeks and even within the next hours in particular by designing different ideas. For that, it's important, and we teach every team the same lesson. Getting started to collect data, to collect feedback is much more important than being right in the end. Because if you're right, this only means you're lucky at this point, because there is no database that will give you the right answer. So it's like a lottery, and it's fair if you're right, and that's good, but this does not tell you anything about the confidence or the competence you're having. So do not discuss too much, but rather opt for an option, do experience, play around, build a prototype, get feedback, and then learn and iterate. And this is more important than just discussing who might be technical, being right without having data from the market. So don't try to convince the others, but rather get started and play around. Again, I cannot emphasize this more enough. This hackathon is the perfect opportunity for experiments. So really be playful and share this as a community, because you all have the same mission this weekend. And so you have over 80 guys with the same mindset providing feedback. So come together as a community and share this experience, these learnings, and your experiments together. And one last point, and I hear that as in every workshop I'm running with design thinking people, this typical sense of, yeah, well, I'm not that creative, or I'm not a creative guy. Creative does not mean drawing or being super good with arts. And so, I mean, yeah, Manoj, you're running an art startup at the same time as being a physicist and a natural science guy, and I admire that totally. But in most sense, you are good at one thing, and that's totally enough. So being creative just means to combine patterns, to come up with new ideas. And if you're good in, just putting this in words or in Post-its and not drawing it out, that's fair. But in the end, when you do experiments, it's not about designing a solution and focusing on design, but communicating your ideas to trigger what's in your head. And, when you were maybe in kindergarten and you were drawing something for your parents and then you showed it to them, and it's like, oh, that's a horse. Nobody might have seen a horse, but your parents were like, oh, honey, that's great. Go on, do another one. And still you learn from this, because you could maybe by the color or by having some patterns that could foresee a horse, help your parents understand what's in your head. And that was totally enough. And so it's a little bit the same with prototypes. Prototypes are not products. Prototypes are meant to communicate your ideas and communicate what you are thinking about, to really quickly loop people into your ideas and help them to get to a point where they can provide feedback. And based on this feedback, then you build a real product. So please distinguish between your prototypes and your products. Your prototypes are meant to learn and not meant to sell. But you use these learnings and these prototypes to, in the end, and this will take several months to build a great product. And so for this weekend and the next weeks, please still stick to learning, prototypes, and experiments. That's all I got to say for 10 minutes rough fly through. It has been 12 minutes. If you're interested, just text me. So just text me on Slack or here via my email. Thank you very much.
Manoj, you're muted.
Manoj, you're muted, Manoj.
Okay, I had to say these words again. Thank you very much, team, for such a wonderful overview what entrepreneurs should do and what not to do basically. And having a team on our side sharing this experience is really something. So make sure that you really get in touch with team on Slack or by email. I think Slack is better because then he will not be flooded with a lot of emails. He must be flooded with a lot of emails already. So that's great. Thank you very much, and do appreciate or interact with our speakers here. So I would go ahead with this. And Jagdish, should I announce or you want to announce?
I was thinking maybe we give a little clap.
Yes, please unmute yourself and give a big clap for Tim.
Oh, I think everyone's microphones are muted, right, from the admin. So.